I am happy today because this is what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American, in his symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of a Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. And so, we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architect of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall in. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights to what? To life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that the American has defaulted on this promissory note. In so far obvious today, citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, you know what happened? America has given the Negro people a bad check. Yes, a bad check which has come back to them marked insufficient funds. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America to the fears of urgency of the word now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlight path of the racial justice. Now is the time to lift this nation from the quicksands of racial injustice. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all Americans.